the biggest issue with the Black Lives Matter movement and this whole movement against police brutality and to defund the police, it's not that it doesn't have enough visibility. Everybody in the country knows about this movement. Everybody in the country has seen the protest. Everybody in the country has seen the uncountable number of instances on video of police brutality and unnecessary force and them just flat out murdering people, innocent people, unarmed people. Everybody in the country's seen it. The overwhelming majority of this country is in favor of radical reforms to policing. So it's not even that we need more people to see the issue or the protest. It's not that we even need to convince more people to be on our side. The issue is that pressure is not being applied in an effective way. There needs to be a clear list of demands, and I've given some of the ones that I think would be great. Mandatory community oversight boards in every single city and neighborhood in this country, where civilians have complete oversight over the police departments. And I don't just mean the city council or the mayor. I mean regular old civilians in the community make up this board, and they get to decide the training procedures for the police department. They decide what laws there should be an emphasis on enforcing. They decide the disciplinary actions for police officers, and they decide they have final say over hiring and firing over the entire department, including the chief of police in whatever the city or community is. That one, I think, it would have a huge effect on addressing police brutality. Also, of course, defunding the police, reallocating funds from, instead of giving just a blank check to police departments to act as an occupying force, act like they're at war with their own citizens, instead of using money to endless money to buy tanks and grenade launchers and fucking assault rifles and tear gas and all these weapons of war. Instead of doing that, reallocate that money to social programs to deal with the problems that people have, that in order to prevent crime from happening in the first place. That's a clear demand that should be made. And with the clear demands, like I said, you need to be applying pressure in an effective way. That means taking the protests to politicians, their offices, their homes. That means shutting down entire cities until you get your demands met. Because this is long overdue for addressing, and they've ignored it up until now, so make it so that they can't ignore us. That's the kind of things that need to happen. We need to make it so that business as usual cannot happen until this problem's addressed. So that's what I think needs to happen. And which brings me to this, what I'm calling this useless strike by the NBA players in the NBA. I'm not downplaying the historic nature of what has happened this week. Basically, all major sports coming to a halt over issues that specifically affect the working class. I can't think of a time that's ever happened before. But just because something is historic doesn't mean it's great by definition, and it doesn't mean it's, like I said, effective. All this really was a bunch of virtue signaling, and the end goal of whatever this strike was, which lasted a whole 24 hours or something like that, weren't anything that was going to bring radical change to policing in this country. If you heard some of the demands that the Milwaukee Bucks players made, and they were the first ones to say that they weren't playing because of the shooting in Wisconsin, it was just the basic generic virtue signaling demands. Oh, we demand these police officers be arrested. The police officers who are clearly on tape using unnecessary force, arguably against their own department's policies, we demand that they get arrested. And then they asked everybody to go out and vote in November. And the implication is go out and vote for Joe Biden. And I'm going to go on a whole other rant about that. But just the first demands about arresting the officers. I am so sick and tired of hearing people come out and say, "Oh, let's arrest the officers." That honestly should go without saying. That should just be baked into the cake with any protest, with any civil disobedience around this. Of course, you want the fucking officers arrested. They're on tape attempting to murder somebody in this case. In many other cases, they're just on tape murdering somebody and going against their own department's policies doing so. So it's not up for debate. It's not up for interpretation whether or not they should be arrested. If the department is enforcing the law, if the prosecutors who are in charge of the case are doing their job, arresting the officer, charging the officer shouldn't be up for debate. And if they don't do that, then they're part of the problem, and they should be part of there should be protests against them too. Then they should be investigated for being involved in a clear cover-up, a criminal cover-up. So I'm tired of this weak sauce demand. Oh, we demand the police be arrested and charged and fired or whatever. That's all should be a no-brainer. Beyond that, so like I said, that comes off as just some virtue signaling. Oh, we're for good things and we're against bad things, and everybody wants those police officers arrested. That's, like I said, the no-brainer. So we're gonna take a brave, bold stand, and we're gonna say we should arrest the police officers. Again, it comes off as just virtue signaling, and you're not really doing anything. And on top of that, so now let's get to the whole go out and vote in November thing. Like, I know I don't have to go over this with my audience, the people who are real political junkies and know this issue and know Joe Biden's record on this issue. But I'm gonna do it anyway. Joe Biden literally, for a huge chunk of his career, his entire career, has bragged about being tough on crime. He was chairman of the Judiciary Committee in the Senate, bragged about working with racist segregationists to craft some of the most racist laws in the country that have fueled this mass incarceration crisis. Joe Biden is responsible for that. Joe Biden is more responsible for the black bodies in prison and the militarized police state we have arguably than any other active politician in the country. So let's get that on the record. Let's get that clear. So then, on top of that, he is still unrepentant to this day about his actions. Till this day, he's defending the crime bill that fueled the drug war, that fueled the private prisons and the mass incarceration crisis. He is still unbowed, unrepentant on that. He still won't legalize marijuana. You ask him however many times you want, ask him however many different ways you want. He still won't budge an inch on legalizing marijuana, which, if you know anything about the subject, and Joe Biden should, because like I said, he's been a tough on crime politician his entire career. He was chairman of the Judiciary Committee. If you know anything about this issue, the entire reason marijuana and this drug war started was a political crackdown, to crack down on political opponents, and there was no threat to public safety, and this wasn't in the interest of public good or anything like that. This entire thing was racist from the beginning, and Joe Biden still hell-bent on keeping marijuana illegal and continuing the drug war. More than that, with all of this going on, he goes and picks a fucking cop, the former attorney general for the state of California, who is on record as defying the Supreme Court when they ordered her to empty the prisons because she had them full to capacity, and her reason for keeping them full to capacity is because she was using them for slave labor. That's who Joe Biden picks to be his VP with all of this social unrest going on. And if that's not enough, while everybody's demanding we defund the police, we reallocate money from the police departments to occupying force and use it to fund social programs, Joe Biden is bragging about how he's going to give more money to police than Donald Trump. And then you have these NBA players, out of touch millionaires, going around virtue signaling and pretending like they're fighting, they're down with the cause and all of that. And then they're going to tell people, oh, go vote for Joe Biden to fix this issue. How? Sway? How? He's like literally on the opposite side of this entire movement. And you're going to tell people to vote for him to fix the problem. That's what I'm saying. This is just a bunch of empty virtue signaling that's honestly an argument can be made that is more harmful to the movement than if they would have just shut the fuck up and not said anything at all. Honestly. So what I really want people to take away from this is at the end of the day, the NBA, the NFL, NHL, all these major league sports leagues, they're all corporations. Above everything else, profit is above everything and anything. They do not care about social justice. They do not care about economic justice. They do not care about the issues that affect the working class. All they care about is the bottom line. That's it for them. It's a corporation. And the players who we all lionize and look up to, they're all millionaires paid by billionaires, and above everything else, their cash flow comes above everything. Which is why this strike lasted all of 24 hours, because I would love to be a fly on the wall to the conversations that were going on behind the scenes when this happened. Because I'll admit, the players, some of them maybe had good intentions, and they definitely caught the owners of the teams and the commissioner and the boards. They caught them all off guard, and they weren't expecting that. They did not get approval from them. So took a bit of a stance, went out on a little bit of a limb there, and bucked the people writing their checks. But look how fast they caved. It's not because they got what they wanted. They got nothing. They got none of the demands that they made. None of it. Not the officers weren't charged or anything like that. And so they didn't even get that. Like I said, what is supposed to be the bare minimum and not even up for debate. They didn't even get that, much less the radical reforms to policing. So why did they cave? And why did they cave so fast? It's because I'm sure the owners, the commissioners, the management, they got them all together and listen, they put the screws to them. They got their minds right. And they told them, listen, you can keep this shit up if you want, but it goes against your contract, all of your contract, and by going on strike, your contract is null and void. We get to rip up the contracts, you're not getting paid, and on top of that, whenever you do end the strike, we're gonna renegotiate contract and everybody's getting paid less. How about that? And I'm sure that that conversation was had. I don't know the exact language of it, but that was the conversation that was had. And all those players who thought they took a bold stance for racial justice and social justice, they dropped that shit quick because they weren't going to let this affect their money. Hey, they could afford to miss a game, and if they didn't get paid that game, I don't even think they get paid they have a contract, so it's not like they got paid by the game. But what the second management put the screws to them and said, you better get your ass back on the court or back on the field, and you better keep doing your job or else you're going to lose money. They all said, all right, fuck it, let's pack this shit up. I'm not losing my check. I'm not losing my house for Black Lives Matter to address police brutality. It ain't that much of a concern for me, and that's why they all dropped it as soon as it got mildly uncomfortable for them. So just know that none of these people are your allies. The NBA is a corporation. All these teams, they're corporations. And the players, they aren't your heroes. They aren't looking out for your best interest. They're millionaires getting paid by billionaires. And above all, they just want a check. And they're not going to let any type of movement to help the working class affect them in any real serious way.